This is Newsroom on SABC News. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. My name, of course, Eben Jansen. This show is live. It's broadcast from our studios here in Auckland Park. We also stream live on YouTube right now with our whole channel, available on demand on YouTube. It's a public holiday, Youth Day, here in South Africa today. The day when we reflect on the events of 1976, when school children across the nation rose up against the oppressive apartheid system of that time. Much of our programming is dedicated to this day. Well, a bit later we've also got music, and the world's first Afronaut will be back. But first, let's hear from Katrine, who's got a news update.
Well, good morning and welcome to the show. I'm Katrine Malan, and let's take a look at the news making headlines. At least 26 people were killed when around 50 insurgents flying black Islamist flags swept into a Kenyan coastal town, firing guns in an unprecedented attack. Gun battles began on Sunday evening and continued into the early hours of Monday morning. But by dawn, the town of Mpeketoni was reported calm. Rehearsals by the South African National Defence Force preparing for the State of the Nation address have begun in Parliament. The National Ceremonial Guard conducted the rehearsals ahead of the SONA tomorrow. President Jacob Zuma will deliver the official speech opening of the 5th Parliament. However, the bad weather in Cape Town may just undo all these rehearsals. If it rains on Tuesday, the normal procedure and ceremony will be cut down, with the President giving his address indoors. Weather conditions are expected to improve in the Cape Peninsula today, with only light showers expected in Cape Town. Flooding over the weekend affected over 8,000 people and living in various informal settlements in the area. The city's Disaster Risk Management Centre says Khayelitsha is the worst struck area, with around 7,000 people affected. Other areas include Strand, Vrygrond, Lotus River, Guguletu, Delft and Philippi. The city of Cape Town dispatched emergency teams to assist. Platinum mine workers have reacted with mixed feelings to a proposed wage settlement. Some miners say it is the best ever increase in the industry. Others, however, feel the miners gave up too soon in their push for 12,500 rand. AMCU President Joseph Matunja said last week that members had accepted the employer's latest offer in principle. He said he might be meeting the representatives of major producers Lonmin, Anglo and Impala over the long weekend. And then in sport, Argentina have opened their FIFA World Cup campaign with a 2-1 win over debutants Bosnia and Herzegovina. Argentine star Lionel Messi ended an 8-year wait for a World Cup goal. There was a touch of fortune in the outcome after Bosnia's Sead Kolasinac netted the first own goal in World Cup history in the 3rd minute. Argentina looked unconvincing until Messi struck in the 65th minute after the 1-2 with substitute Gonzalo Higuain. Those were your headlines for this morning. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, back to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Katrine. The Soweto uprising, also known as June 16, is a series of protests led by high school students at the beginning, that began on the morning of 16 June 1976. 38 years ago, students from various schools protest in the streets of Soweto in response to the introduction of Afrikaans as the medium of instruction in local schools. It's estimated that over 20,000 students took part in the protests. The number of people who died is usually given at around 176. Well, some estimates put it up to around 700. June 16 is now a public holiday, Youth Day here in South Africa, in remembrance of the events of 1976. This year's commemoration coincides with the celebration of 20 years of democracy. SABC reporter Griselda Lewis joins us from the Hector Peterson Memorial. Good morning, Griselda. Thanks for joining us.
Well, a very good morning to you, Eben. And just to correct you there, I'm actually coming to you now from Morris Isaacson School here in Soweto.
Thank you very much for that little update, Griselda. Good on you on this Monday morning. Just tell us quickly, it looks very solemn and a rather dignified affair. Is that the case? The mood looks a little bit solemn and respectful almost.
Well, yeah, but there's certainly a hive of activity here in Soweto. Well, activities got underway at 7 o'clock this morning, where you had the Gauteng provincial government having a wreath-laying ceremony at the Hector Peterson Memorial. And also, at this moment, there is an unveiling that is taking place, the launch of a memorial acre, which is taking place not too far from here, just part of the activities that are taking place here in Soweto. Where I'm standing at the moment, this is where Metro FM will be having its Walk of Freedom. It's in its 4th year this year. Basically, Metro FM saying that they want to get involved and get youth to be involved about what happened 38 years ago here in Soweto. Also, 5FM and Likwala Kwala FM are also broadcasting here from Soweto. So really, the SABC at the forefront of this commemoration 38 years later. But now, joining me to chat a bit more about what is taking place here in Soweto at the moment, if I can ask Griselda Kananda to join me here at the moment. Griselda, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, it's in its 4th year. We're looking at the Metro FM Walk of Freedom. Tell us the significance, as somebody that young people look up to as well. What's the significance of this this walk this morning?
Before I even respond to that question, I've always wondered what it would be like for Griselda Lewis to be introducing Griselda Kananda. Now, the significance, earlier on I was asked, if you were to meet June 16 youth, what would you say today? And for me, the word that comes out alive is thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We look back now, we look at our 12-year-olds and 17-year-olds. They would not have been as brave as those young people were. Earlier on, as we were laying wreaths at the Hector Peterson Memorial, we heard when they did the roll call. Some of those young people actually have names. It's not just numbers, that so many numbers were shot down, so many numbers died. But it's human beings, young people who stood up for what was wrong at the time. And I guess when we start comparing the youth of yesteryear and youth of today, there is that generational gap that says we don't have an actual cause of what it is that is troubling us today. Today we're fighting with the battle of the soul. Where do you even begin trying to restore a soul that was never there? And looking back to the circumstances at the time when they had to stand up for a system that was discriminatory, a system that was apartheid. It was just, you look at what they had, they only had a stone and the will. And that's all they had. And today we have so much access, so much information. We have freedom of speech. We can, we can bring a person down using Twitter, Facebook, and those things were not there at the time. And yeah, all we can say is just thank you.
Certainly you've alluded to the fact that there are many different challenges at this point in time, but do you think perhaps the youth understand what happened back then? Do you think there's an appreciation by the youth of today? I mean, we've seen so many of them out here to walk this path that those brave youngsters did in 1976.
I think the importance of initiatives such as this help to instill that sense of importance. Why is it important for us to keep commemorating this day? Is exactly what you've just asked, because in order for us to know where we're heading, in order for us to know why we're here, we need to reflect back on where we come from. In order for us to appreciate today, we need to understand how we got here. And initiatives such as these help us to relive, to retrace, to relearn what happened then in order for us to look back and say, actually, we're lucky to be born now.
Griselda Kananda, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Griselda Kananda was also with Metro FM. They're all here to participate in this Walk of Freedom, to remind the youth of what happened back there in 1976. Eben, I'm going to hand it back to you in studio now.
Thank you very much, Griselda. Griselda Lewis, as always, on the scene and up to date and up to speed, giving us a little update as to what is happening in Soweto today. Of course, commemorations all around the country. Let's just recap what this day is all about. Our producer, Anine Dormel, has put together a little timeline.
Thank you, Eben. And like you've mentioned today, the country will remember what happened during the Soweto uprising. And to do just that, let's first take a look at what happened exactly 38 years ago today. On this day, the class of 1976 bravely took to the streets, dissatisfied with Bantu education system and the introduction of Afrikaans as a medium instruction. Thousands of students marched from Naledi High to what is now Hector Peterson Square, Police reports of the time state the situation became explosive, and that is when school students and Hector Peterson was killed during a shower of bullets from police. On the 17th of June, many others joined the original protesters. Not everyone had heard about Peterson and the others who were killed yet, but the word was spreading. In Johannesburg, 300 predominantly white students marched through the city centre to protest the killing of the school children. Then on the 18th of June, with the situation in Soweto still volatile, the action had already moved to the East and West Rand and Alexandra townships, as well as other parts of the country. In general, a stay-away was organised in Alexandra townships, and the 4 people were killed in that marching. Altogether, hundreds of young people lost their lives in the uprising. Now, after taking a look back at what happened in 1976, Newsroom spoke to some of today's young people. Let's see what they have to say about the historic day and how they will be celebrating Youth Day.
Youth Day means that it how greater opportunities for this generation and the next generations to come.
Now you'll be able to study anything. I'm so privileged as a born free.
I feel like it's good. It's an encouragement to us to work harder and to have a better future than our parents did.
A lot of things have been implemented to change South Africa from the way it was to what it is today.
I pay respect to those who fought for freedom, not just within for myself.
For Youth Day, I'm gonna try to educate the youngsters about Youth Day and go to church and thank God for that I'm here.
I'll be at some church, maybe, hi with some families and my friends and by the church. Yeah, that's me.
Well, that's all from me, Eben. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Anine Domel. They're giving us a little bit of insight as to how young people are thinking. And as we celebrate Youth Day today, we look at the challenges, the many challenges young people of our country face, with the 3rd highest unemployment rate in the world for people between the ages of 15 and 24. More than 50% of the youth are jobless in that sector. At the same time, the rising cost of higher education has left this generation with unpayable debt and little hope for the future in some instances. And to talk to us about this, Eric de Ridder, co-founder of National Non-Partisan and Youth Organisation in Inkulu Vryheid, joins us here. Good morning, Eric, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
It's mouthful there. Is it really as bad? Is the outlook really as bad for young people as we tend to make out at times?
Look, I think the reality is that the majority of young people have been excluded from the economic prosperity that we've seen in the past 20 years. And we have a long way to go to make sure that the next generation doesn't suffer the same fate. In particular, we know that people are the center of an economy. And if you're not investing in educational outcomes and not investing in the next generation, then the situation looks pretty bleak on a 20-year horizon. But I remain optimistic about the future.
What about things like the youth wage subsidy and the like? What are your views on this, and is it a positive step?
I think the youth wage subsidy is a positive step. I mean, it's a stopgap measure at the end of the day. The reality is that the South African economy suffers from significant divisions, in particular between insiders and outsiders, and we need to look at much more systemic structural reforms, in particular investing in education, because education and innovation are really the engines of economic growth. You can't kind of put plugs in the sinking ship, so to speak.
Yeah. When we look at the youth, they speak almost a different language compared to what I speak. Do the younger generation of today, do they lack trust in traditional political institutions and leaders, for that matter?
I think there is a discrepancy between what's promised in South Africa and what's delivered. And it's intuitive for young people to pick up on that and say, well, this is what is being said and this is what's being done. And I think there is a measure of distrust. I think that there's a culture of intellectual dormancy almost in our politics. And I think young people are interested in more creative and innovative ways to push the national conversation forward.
What about things like race? The race arguments we have in this country, the race standoffs we have at times in this country. Are young South Africans overcoming race?
Race is still a significant dividing factor in the country. It's very difficult to ignore that, and it has big implications for how different people can act on their future and build the future that they want and that they see. At the same time, I think there is a generational shift in terms of how we interact with this, and I think the majority of young people think we can do better. The majority of young people agree that a non-racial, non-sexist society is a good foundation to build on. But at the same time, I think young people want us to be more ambitious, to say that we want to be a world leader, and to do that requires that we get these things right, but also that we focus on the longer term.
I want to go back to the economy and look at young people. In this life, you have to make things happen in your own life, and one should stop playing the blame game, as it were. What are the options out there for young people who have that make-it-happen.com attitude?
I think it's crucial for those types of people to be fearless in their pursuit of their own career goals, in terms of their business objectives, their political objectives, because it's up to my generation to really shape the type of inclusive society that we all want to see in the longer term. And the economy is a big part of that. And like I said, the people are the bedrock of progress in an economy, and it requires self-starting individuals like, for example, Hendrik van der Bijl, Elon Musk, and South Africa's produced many of these types of individuals who really create the type of industries and innovations that help push society forward now.
The next 10 years, then, the next decade, would be the what do you call it, the born free, the freedom, the freedom decade, the one where you have to make your freedom count. Is it that important, the next 10 years, for young people in South Africa?
Absolutely. The young people continue to make up the majority of people in South Africa, and that generation and that group of people need to be self-starting. I think the state has a role to play in supporting small business development and supporting educational outcomes. Organised business and organised labour also have an important role to play to ensure that cohort is supported. But ultimately, the responsibility lies with those individuals themselves. It's self-education, self-learning, and really kickstarting your own career is extremely important.
Make it happen if you have it in you. That's the secret, I suppose, for all young people out there, although you do need infrastructure and support.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Eric, for joining us today. That is, the co-founder of Inkulu Freya, is a non-partisan youth organisation here in Johannesburg. Thank you once again, Eric, for joining us this morning. Let's now take a look at what's happening on the front pages around the world. Of course, it's only a public holiday here in South Africa. Everywhere else, it's business as usual. Today, the Wall Street Journal looks at the recent ISIS threats to Iraq's regional security. Then the New Zealand Herald reporting on all the weekend sporting action. Of course, the junior box beat four-time RB Junior World Champions New Zealand by 32 points to 25 to advance to the final of that competition. And papers in South America, of course, have got their eye only on one event, and that is the World Cup in Brazil. Let's take a look at what you are talking about on social media at SABC Newsroom. Of course, we love to hear your views. Even more so, we love to see your pictures. At SABC Newsroom is where you send it to us on Twitter. That's where we interact with it. Just take a look at who's talking. Bonnevale Wine says, "Release your inner child. Have a fantastic youth day." I can agree with that. City of Joburg, commemorate the remarkable spirit of the youth of 76 with a spring of positive vibrancy by taking part in Youth Day celebrations. That's right, and Youth Day celebrations is simply not just a braai at your house. Mama Atlehang says, commemorate this day in a manner that the youth of 1976 would be proud of. Hashtag Youth Day. That's where all the talk seems to be centering. Recruit says, Youth Day, South Africa, freedom, celebrate. All, well, sort of tagged up, really. That kid Arthur says, 16 June, the day our rights were fought for. That's right, by young people in this very country. Now, let us revisit the past of this day by taking a look at what the former wife of former President Nelson Mandela, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, said about the Soweto uprising and riots in South Africa in the year 1976.
The Soweto riots are not an isolated incident. As a matter of fact, we don't even regard them as Soweto riots as such, but a national disaster. It is the beginning of what we have always warned, the nationalist, racist government.
Your World provides trusted world, continent and local stories. We deliver breaking news from across the globe and information on the latest top stories on business, technology, politics and sport. Analysis of the big global business and economic issues as they affect consumers and investors. Make sure you don't miss Your World, weekdays between 11 and 12 midnight. We keep the nation fully informed.
Who are we, you ask? This is who we are.
We are technologically driven.
We are unashamedly Afrocentric.
We advise you not only on legal matters,
but on health issues as well.
We bring imagination to life.
We celebrate arts and culture and lifestyle.
We tackle life challenges head on.
We dig deep. We probe. We question.
We invite you to take a view from our house, as we tell it without fear, separating fiction from factual.
We are the SABC News Channel.
All news, all global, all the time.
Welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Now, the role of women, and especially young women in society today, has also changed quite drastically over the decades. Women today have opportunities that stretch across a variety of fields today and no longer ever have to be subjected to their male counterparts. On this day of celebrating the youth of the country, let's take some time to celebrate the young women of today as well. I'm joined by Melinda Bam, the director from Womentality, who works closely with girls in schools across the country. Melinda, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Katrine.
Melinda, let's just start off with Womentality. Just explain the concept again and just briefly the history behind it.
Well, Womentality is a youth and women development program that we started early last year. And what we do is basically just touching on broad aspects of what it takes for a young woman to establish herself from a very young age as a strong individual. Someone that can really make a change in her environment and that can create a movement where she positively influences the people in her life and becomes a groundbreaker in her career one day. So the Womentality concept is a series of workshops that we present across the country. When we go to different schools, universities, and we cater to audience of 500 plus. And it's incredible to see how young girls take at it when they realize that they need to change their mindset before they start changing everything else around them in their lives. If you don't have a healthy mindset, you can't have a healthy outlook. And then achieving great things in life, I think, becomes seemingly more difficult.
Now, you also visit a lot of schools in the country. Can you tell us about these visits that you have with these young girls?
Well, we've had extensive visits in Gauteng, across Joburg and Pretoria. I think Anya and myself have visited over 52 schools thus far, and in the Free State as well. And it's very important for us that when we go to the schools, that we invite them to the workshops and to the program. But not only that, that we actually leave something with the girls on the day itself. We inspire them, because I think when you talk to a young girl, most of them, to me, I'd like to liken them to a sponge, because they take in everything at once and they'd like to soak up as much information and just a new outlook in life. So when we talk to them, it's really about inspiring them to really achieve everything that they can in life.
What do you find most striking about young women today?
I think young women today are incredibly eager. I think we've got a lust for life, and I think today, more than ever, we are incredibly aware of how strong we can be and how strong we are and how far we've come and how many battles we've fought. So I think the young women of today are the groundbreakers. I hope that they will one day be the leading job creators and have a valuable contribution in our economy and our social development. So I think, I stand in awe when I see young women with their big aspirations and knowing that they can achieve just that.
Now, the flip side of the coin, what would you say are still the greatest challenges for young women today and the insecurities today?
I think that comes twofold. There are many practical challenges when it comes to women's health, gender equality, especially in bridging a gap between the young girls when they finish their studies and when they go to and pursue a tertiary education, and then having to enter a corporate environment where being a woman is sometimes the biggest of challenge because you're still moving in a male-dominant industry. And I think that's a very, very big challenge for young women. And then especially health in schools. If you take it that a lot of girls miss 2 months out of the year just because of their menstruation and their periods. And I think there's so many incredible initiatives that corporates have embarked on. And I think things like that is incredibly valuable in addressing these concerns and these challenges.
Now, the strong role models that we have today, who stands out for you and who do you think like young girls should really look up to in the country today?
I think the late Maya Angelou will always be the mother of leaders and for women leaders, if I can put it that way. And especially some of the women that I've surrounded myself with in the last month or so, being part of the SABC Take a Girl Child to Work and the SABC Institute of Mentorship, where Cheryl Carolus, businesswoman and former politician, is a patron of, and learning from them, and modern businesswomen like Emma Sadlier. South Africa really has the widest variety of female role models, and I think it's wonderful to see all of them rising to the occasion.
Now, just to touch back on womentality again, I understand you guys had a series of workshops now recently. How did it go? And then when is the next workshop?
Well, it went really well. We've had an overwhelming response, and our first 2 workshops of the year were in May and the beginning of June. And we decided that we needed to have another one. So we're back by popular demand and back in Pretoria on the 28th of June. And I'm really looking forward to hosting another 400 girls and creating a forum where they can really talk about their challenges, where they can vent some of their frustrations and issues. But over and above that, where they can take a little bit better care of themselves and change their mindset about what it means to be a woman and how they can draw strength from that.
Well, Melinda, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm sure there are a lot of girls looking forward to the next workshop. It's at Womentality on Twitter,
yes,
and then they're able to find you on the web as well.
Yes, at www.womentality.co.za. All the details for the workshops are there and the bookings as well.
Well, Melinda, thank you so much for joining us. And Melinda is one of the directors from Womentality, inspiring young women to do great things in South Africa. On that note, let's take a look at what you are saying on social media. Please remember to send us your views to @SABC Newsroom on Twitter. Frederik van der Veen, amazing win from Martin Kaymer UK at the US Open, 8 shots clear of second place. Really pleased for Kaymer winning US Open, shows you have played with the swing and shot shape comfortable to you, not what you feel you should do. Everybody talks about the hashtag Women 2014, but what Martin Kaymer did the last days was more than stunning. Congrats. Wow, golf, US Open. Huge congratulations to Martin Kaymer. Yes, everybody's celebrating. And look at those beautiful photos coming in. Celebrates with a trophy after his 8-stroke victory during the final round of the 114th US Open. Let's also now have a look at what's happening on our Facebook page. There you have it. You can get the latest updates and the latest news on whatever is trending on social media and the websites. You can visit our Facebook page at Facebook.com/SABC Newsroom. You can get the latest all there now. Let's take a break and we'll be back right after on this special day celebrating the inspiring youth of our country.
Please Please take note, as of the 2nd of June, Business Review will broadcast weekdays at 6 p.m., followed by primetime news at 6:30 p.m. The Indigenous language bulletins will remain in their usual time slot, followed by the news at 8 from 8 to 8:30 p.m. Stay tuned to SABC News Channel. All news, all global, all the time.
The Kenyan actress is the first from her country to win an Academy Award. Her Best Actress Oscar win has inspired many in Kenya.
Nyong'o's victory has made the headlines in all of the country's newspapers. This was Nyong'o's first role in a film after she had completed postgraduate studies in America.
Players in South Africa's music industry will attend the Music Exchange program in Cape Town, South Africa.
We as Africans, we have to embrace what is unique about us and about our music.
That's Afro Showbiz News, Saturdays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a look at what's making headlines this morning. At least 26 people were killed when around 50 insurgents flying black Islamist flags swept into a Kenyan coastal town, firing guns in an unprecedented attack. Gun battles began on Sunday evening and continued into the early hours of Monday morning. But by dawn, the town of Mpeketoni was reported calm. Rehearsals by the South African National Defence Force preparing for the State of the Nation address have begun in Parliament. The National Ceremonial Guard conducted the rehearsals ahead of the SONA tomorrow. President Jacob Zuma will deliver the official speech opening of the fifth Parliament. However, the bad weather in Cape Town might just undo all these rehearsals. If it rains on Tuesday, the normal procedure and ceremony will be cut down, with the President giving the address indoors. Then weather conditions are expected to improve in the Cape Peninsula today, with only light showers expected in Cape Town. Flooding over the weekend affected over 8,000 people living in various informal settlements in the area. The city's Disaster Risk Management Centre says Khayelitsha is worst struck area, with around 7,000 people affected. Other areas include Strand, Vrygrond, Lotus River, Gugulethu, Delft and Philippi. The city of Cape Town dispatched emergency teams to assist. Platinum mine workers have reacted with mixed feelings to the proposed wage settlement. Some miners say it is the best ever increase in the industry. Others, however, feel the miners gave up too soon in their push for 12,500 rand. AMCU President Joseph Matunja said last week that members had accepted the employer's latest offer in principle. He said he might be meeting the representative of major producers Lonmin, Anglo and Impala over the long weekend. And in sport, Argentina have opened their FIFA World Cup campaign with a 2-1 win over debutants Bosnia and Herzegovina. Argentine star Lionel Messi ended an 8-year wait for a World Cup goal. There was a touch of fortune in the outcome after Bosnia's Sead Kolesniak netted the fastest own goal in World Cup history in the 3rd minute. Argentina looked unconvincing until Messi struck in the 65th minute after a 1-2 with substitute Gonzalo Higuain. Remember, all these top stories are available on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Now, Eben is standing by with quite an interesting guy going to space.
I'm actually sitting by, Katrine. Welcome back if you've just joined us. While we remember what happened in 1976 here in South Africa, today we also have to celebrate the young people of today. Mandla Maseko is a young inspiration ready to take the universe by storm. He calls himself a typical township boy, but by the year 2016 will become the first black African in space. Mandla, the Afronaut, joins us today in studio as part of our Youth Day celebrations. Morning, Mandla. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me again.
Now, for those who don't know, just tell us your story quickly and where you are right now.
Okay, as you mentioned, I will be the first black African in space, and that happened through the Ex-Apollo Space Academy competition, which was running globally, whereby I had to go through vigorous challenges You know, out of 75 countries that were there, there was 109 people from 75 countries, and I made it to the top 23 people that will be launching into space, making me the only South African and African.
Now, what is the latest? I understand that you've had to go through intensive training modules and all sorts of very difficult instruction that you've had to go through. Tell us about this and some of the key anecdotes that you maybe can take out of it.
You know, here at the local space camp that was held in Free State, we had to do 10,000 feet skydiving above ground level. We had to do what we call the vomit comet. We had to do a plane stunt. In the global space camp that was held in Orlando, Florida, we had to do the obstacle courses, you know, the zero-G flight. Basically, it was an intense training that had to push you, or had to make sure that you push yourself to the limit whereby you know that you can actually withstand anything that gets thrown to you. And as you mentioned, I'm a typical township boy. I face everything head on, you know. Everything you throw anything at me, I face it head on. That's how we are.
Now tell me about Youth Day and the kind of interactions, you know. It's really about reaching for the stars when you're a young person, and at times it's not always possible in South Africa. What's your message to young people out there?
You know, my message to young people is that being unemployed is basically you shouldn't give up. You know, I was unemployed. Believe it or not, I still am. You know, and put yourself out there. Go out to your communities, volunteer. You know, so that when opportunities land, they find you being at the forefront of it all.
Yeah.
And we were brought up to think that we should look for jobs. How about we change that, you know, that mentality whereby we must go and look for jobs? How about we start creating jobs, you know? It's time for us, the youth of today, to innovate.
And how are you going to be celebrating the day today?
I'm going back to school, so today's my day off. So I'm going back home. It's tough. And again, we started a campaign called Sky is Not the Limit, whereby I go around schools and give talks and talk to young people. Hopefully, I might go and speak to other people in my township and then, spend the afternoon at home.
Now, this is a fantastic adventure that you're going into. Tell us, how can people and how can young people track you and how can they get involved with your pursuit into space?
I have a Facebook page. It's Mandla Maseko, and I'm also on Twitter at Mandla Maseko1. I'm also on Instagram, Mandla Maseko, and everything that has to do with my journey from now on up until I get to launch, I make sure that I put it on the social network. And
before I let you go, what are your friends saying right now? Say, this boy's crazy.
Space for us, it was a far-fetched dream, you know.
Yeah.
We wanted to do and be the norm, you know, the policeman, nurse, and but no offense, but that's what we wanted to do. Now it's like, dude, you crazy. We fly at 38,000 feet. You want to go above that, so. But it's reachable now. Sky is no longer the limit.
The sky is no longer the limit. The universe is no longer the limit. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Mandla Maseko is said to be the first black African to go into space in the year 2016. Now, another person that is of interest to young South Africans is our next guest, and she's with Katrine Milan.
Well, yes, following her catalytic win in the RyanSeacrest.com One Direction cover song Story of My Life contest earlier this year, South African YouTube sensation Philippa has launched Chills, her debut original single. The music video made its global premiere on the international radio and television personality's popular website on Friday morning. The 18-year-old Philippa, who is currently studying drama and musical theatre in Cape Town, has since winning the competition become South Africa's sweetheart and a true inspiration to the country's youth. Let's have a sneak peek at that music video.
without you. Your heart's becoming my home. You wrap your arms around me, 'cause you know you're gonna make me smile. Haven't felt this for a while. I feel those chills running up and down my spine. It's the way that you hold me, it's the way that you know me. Ooh, I feel that thrill creeping back into my life. It's the way that you
Wow. First debut single. What does it feel like to be able to say that?
It's amazing. I don't even have words. It's just so exciting. It's just the most amazing feeling. It's like a dream come true.
The single is called Chills. Can you tell us more about the story behind it?
Right. Well, it was written by and produced by producers in America, in Los Angeles, actually, Josh Zegan and Jeff Sojka. And it was a great experience because they wrote the song with me in mind, with a lot of my input, which was really cool. It was a great experience working with them. And it was quite challenging because, I had to basically only communicate with them over Skype. So it was quite challenging, but it was such a cool experience. And eventually after a few months, we got the right groove of it, and then it was ready to be released.
And a lot of people don't understand the amount of work that goes into something like this.
Work, yeah.
Just tell us about the whole process. How you said it took months.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I had to first, we discussed it. We went through basic things like lyrics and music and sending through ideas and, through email and also Skyping. And then once we had everything, it was recording it. So I recorded the vocals here, and they had recorded the music there on their side. And then it was, sending it through, then, doing different mixes of it, sending it across again, and then, giving some input here and there. So it's a really, really long process.
And it was launched on Friday morning. Have you received that call from Ryan Seacrest yet?
No, I have not.
I'm going to ask you every time. It's been quite a journey. What's ahead now for the rest of the year?
Well, bringing out new singles. I really want to do it, carry on doing it, and writing also my own stuff. So that is just really exciting. And studying, finishing my studying, which is...
How do you cope with both the music career and the studying? And
it's difficult. I mean, but I love doing both. I mean, so I think I just try and balance it as much as I possibly can. It is really tough, especially now I'm really busy, and also traveling a lot. I'm always traveling from Cape Town to Joburg. But I mean, it's what I love to do, so I'm doing it.
Now today is Youth Day, and you are one of the inspiring youths of our country. What is your message to the people out there on this day?
Just be yourself. I think that's the most important thing. I think especially me being an artist, I mean, I've realized that being yourself is really important, because you will have a lot of people, that won't necessarily agree with you, or, will try and put you down. But just, I think, be yourself and just do what you love to do, and that'll make you happy.
Now, you're only 18 years old. How is an 18-year-old with all of this going on? How do you keep yourself grounded?
I think my family does that. I mean, having my parents, they do keep me grounded. I mean, I try very hard as well to always tell myself, just stay yourself, just don't change. And I think the most important thing is having family and friends that do support you, and at the same time, they don't put you on a pedestal, so they keep you where you need to be.
Now, the single is called Chills. Where will people be able to get their hands on this single?
iTunes. You can purchase it on iTunes, and you can see it on YouTube or ryanseacrest.com.
Okay, great. Working on an album anytime?
Yes, hopefully beginning of next year.
And beginning of next year,
yes.
So we'll be able to get it there. And then on Twitter, do you any hashtags, any Twitter handles, or anything that they can follow on Twitter?
I do have a Twitter handle. It's quite long, so let me do this one. It's Philippe Alexandre, right? So it's FILIPA. Then another ALEXANDR, and then the number 8.
Well, we'll certainly be posting it to our Twitter. We'll be posting it to our Twitter feed, so you can go find it there. We'll also be posting a link to Philippa's debut single called Chills. You will also be able to find it on our Facebook page. Philippa, thank you so much for joining us today. And Eben, back to you. Guess not. Back to Eben. The historic picture of a dying Hector Peterson being carried by Mrisani Makubu after being shot in the June 16, 1976 Soweto uprising is known worldwide. The picture exposed the brutality of the apartheid system, but few people do not know the man who took the iconic picture. We recently spent time with Sam Nzima, the man who risked his own life to take that picture.
Sam, will you now tell us your account of what happened on June the 16th and the subsequent days, and particularly how you came to take that picture which was splashed across the world?
Political organizations or liberation movements are also using that picture very extensively. Some of them, they did not even know who took the picture, but they are benefiting out of the picture. I do believe now, since it's a new South Africa, new government, they will recognize my work, which has been contributed to the change in South Africa when it comes to the education of the children of South Africa.
The image in question, Mbuyisa Makubu carrying a dying Hector Peterson, has defined the struggle against apartheid. Speaking to the SABC from his Mpumalanga hometown of Lilydale, photographer Sam Nzima recalls how the iconic image almost did not make it in the newspapers.
I went there under the shower of bullets for the picture. When I took that picture of Hector Peterson, I took that picture, 6 shots. Mbuyisa Makubu was trying to get the nearest car to take Hector Peterson to the nearest clinic. And indeed, the only car was our press car, which was a Volkswagen. Sophie Tima helped Mbuyisa Makubu to take Hector Peterson to the car, put him in the back seat. They drove into the clinic. On arrival there, the doctor certified Hector Peterson dead on the arrival. That time, after I've taken that picture of Hector Peterson, I quickly removed the film and I stuck it on my shoe, my sock. And then I loaded another one. While I was still taking, the police arrived and they ordered me to stop, and they confiscated all my camera, exposed all the films. It had not been of that quick thinking of mine to remove the film of Hector Peterson and I stuck it on my socks. I shouldn't have had this picture now.
Some say the tensions in schools had been growing from February 1976 after 2 teachers at the Medellin Swane School Board were fired for their refusal to teach in Afrikaans. Nzima recalls how, while working at the World newspaper, he was assigned with journalist Sophie Temmer to cover a Soweto student protest against the enforced use of Afrikaans.
It started from whereby there was a secular. There was a circular which was distributed to all the schools in Soweto, and it was going to be in the whole of South Africa. The circular went on to the school to say that now the teachers must teach the students in the medium of section of Afrikaans. The teachers accepted because they were civil servants. They couldn't say anything else. Now, the student, they said to the teachers, enough is enough. We will take this into the street to demonstrate. We protest to show that we are against this. We cannot be taught mathematics, science, and all these subjects in the medium section of Afrikaans. Afrikaans that does not have all this terminology of science. So it's where this Soweto uprising started. Now the students gathered then. They started to march. They started from Naledi High School, where they gathered, and before we went there, on the 15th of June, that was on Tuesday, because the Soweto uprising was on Wednesday. On Tuesday, the students were called by Pesi Koboza to have a mini press conference, as usual. Before the following day, we have to come together and get an assignment from the editor that tomorrow you're going to do this, tomorrow you're going to do that. So I was given an assignment with Sophie Tima to go and cover the march of the student, which started from Naledi High School, then march into Soweto up to where everything happened.
To show their well-meaning efforts, and there was no other involvement other than from the students themselves, they wore full uniforms. Nzima was there at the students' first rallying point.
I started to take pictures from Naledi High School because it was a peaceful thing. They were writing the slogan to say, away with Africans, and the other say Africans must be abolished, and we are being fed by the crumbs of education. Another placard that I remember. Another one was saying that we are being certificated but not educated. So I kept on taking those pictures. I took those pictures peacefully, and the students started to march peacefully, so it was quiet.
His first pictures illustrate the students' intent.
When we arrived at Orlando West High, the students were waiting for the other student to come out from Orlando High School. They found that the gate was locked. The principal of the school, he did not want his student to go and join the march to go to the Orlando Stadium. He locked the gate, and the student broke the gate. They got in there. They found that they were busy writing a test in Afrikaans. So they snatched all those papers and torn them. They ordered the student to get out. While they were still waiting there, waiting for the student to get out from Orlando High School, there comes a young man saying, "Hey, Machita, it means that police are here now." When you look at the Orlando West direction, we saw a crew of police, a convoy of police coming down to Orlando West.
When the peaceful protest reached Orlando West, Vilakazi and Muema streets, it was met with the state's violent might. The police, remembers Nzima, seemed surprised by the size of the protest and the sentiment being expressed.
When they arrived there, the police in charge, who had his stick in his armpit, pulled out his stick and said, "But my is so. 3 minutes is off." Which means that I'm giving you 3 minutes. What are you doing here, little ones? I'm giving you 3 minutes, must disperse from here. So they start to sing the song which was banned, called Sigelela Africa. That song, when ANC was in exile, was banned, and the PAC was banned that time, then because the Sigelela Africa song was also banned in South Africa. They started to sing the song which was banned in the country. I think that's the thing that provoked that guy, the leader of the police, and they pulled his gun and shot direct to the crowd.
The brutality of apartheid, illustrated in Sam Nzima's pictures, shook the world. The student protest and the brutal police response mobilized South Africa's youth, creating a momentum that, as some argue, ended with a free and democratic South Africa. But did Sam Nzima's portrait change his life for the better now that he was known all over the world?
No, not at all, because the copyright was not mine. Was owned by the August Group, The Star, and The World. No, The World was under The Star newspaper. But The World was for the blacks, and The Star for the whites. So they refused my copyright that time. The picture made money because it was circulated all over the world's newspapers, magazines, TVs. They were using this picture until 1998, when the August Group sold The Star to independent newspapers. So the independent group, that's the one that finally they released the copyright to me. The picture made me to be famous.
He did not reap any financial rewards.
Yeah. Destroy my future in journalism. I left journalism because of this picture. The picture was good, made me famous, but at the same time made a lot of enemies for me because I was no longer having a good relationship with the police in South Africa.
Sam Nzima is also mindful that his picture affected the families of the young people in the picture.
The Hector Peterson family and Mbuyiso Makwe's family, more especially Nombulelo, the mother of Mbuyiso, she was so happy to say that, "Sam, you made my son to be a hero." My son was never a hero, was never a politician. And then today, the whole of South Africa, the whole world knows my son. But unfortunately, Mbuyiso, we don't know his whereabouts until her mother passed away not knowing the whereabouts of her son, Mbuiso. And then the family of Hector Peterson, they are also happy. Also mentioned the same thing, that Hector Peterson was never a leader, he was just an ordinary student. But York Hammerer made Hector Peterson to be a very important person and a famous person in the world. I'm happy the family, they have no problem. But the person who came out being a problem was Mbuiso's brother, who claims that my brother must be blotted, his face must be blotted from the picture because we don't want to see him again in the press. That was a terrible thing because the picture becomes a people's picture. You cannot reverse to say something, this must be changed, and that may not be.
For Sam and Nzima, each time we approach June 16th, it evokes painful memories.
Oh, terrible. Terrible thing because I cannot have a rest. I don't have a peace of mind of forgetting what happened June 16th. Every year, I'm being interviewed by TV, newspapers, radios, and all. They wanted to know what happened June 16th. So it's impossible to forget what happened. And that is traumatizing me, but now I'm used to it. What must I do? It's a people's picture. People want to know what happened. To me, it's now deep-rooted in my blood that this happened. I cannot run away from it. I've done it.
In 2011, President Jacob Zuma honored Sam Nzima with the Order of Ikamanga in bronze for his work.
Order of Ikamanga in bronze, awarded to Masana Samuel Sam Nzima for his excellent contribution in photojournalism and putting the brutality of apartheid police in the international spotlight.
Nzima says he's content with all the recognition he's received for his famous picture, but he wishes for South Africa to remember him differently.
I would love to leave a very good legacy for the youth of the country in South Africa. They must know where do we come from. They must know where are we and where are we going to. I must leave a good legacy. That's my wish. In so much that I'm planning and I'm struggling to get a proper plan to put up a photo gallery and museum in this rural area, so that I must leave that legacy. The youth of South Africa must see what I was doing. I'm doing that for them. Today is June 16 is a youth day. That's a legacy made by this picture of Hector Peterson. That's what I have done. The people of South Africa will remember me on that. I made something. And what I've done cannot just be blowed off. It's there to stay. Nobody can obliterate it. So simple. And then if that come to being, and I managed to build up that photo gallery and museum, it would remain as my legacy that this is what I want to do. This is what I wanted to do. And the youth is what they must do. Because youth must not keep on saying, we are unemployed, we're unemployed. Employment is at your hands and your brain. We must create the job for ourselves.
I was there at Morris Isaacson when Hector Peterson was killed for refusing to master the language of the master. There I was when his lifeless body was carried around in the streets of Soweto. Youth is truth. Youth is a fact.
Have we seen the last of you in politics?
I don't know. No, I'm just okay now with the work that I'm doing. Let me just do one thing at a time. So I don't have any plans for politics.
Watch Question Time with me, Mpho Tsedu, Monday to Thursday at 5:30 p.m. on the SABC News Channel.